We are following new details on a mass shooting in Southern California where a gunman killed at least 12 people. CBS News has learned that police recovered evidence at the scene of the shooting in Thousand Oaks, California, that led them to a house in nearby Newbury Park. Now, officials are trying to figure out if the 28-year-old man that lives at that house was the shooter.
The deadly attack happened at the Borderline Bar and Grill last night, which was hosting an event for college students. The gunman was found dead inside the building, but not before killing a heroic sheriff sergeant who was the first to arrive on the scene.
All right, let's turn to CBS News senior national security analyst Fran Townsend. So, Fran, now, you know, the gunman is deceased, right? We have the victims. Now, looking forward to the investigation, what are some of the questions that law enforcement will be hoping to answer?
Well, starting right now, what they've done is the bar is now a crime scene, right? And they're going through that. They're looking for shell casings. They're looking for all sorts of evidence, forensic evidence that will help them. Outside the bar, you'll see they're trying to, one, get medical attention to those who need it, but keep the victims who were in the bar in the area because every one of them's got to be interviewed. And so from there, you're looking, they will have taken the fingerprints of the gunman to try and identify him. They'll look, did he have any papers on him? Law enforcement calls that pocket litter. Anything that would have identified him, his home or residence, or his motivation. And all of that will begin to stitch a picture together. They'll be running the details on the gun to see where was the gun purchased, who's the legal owner, how was it obtained. All of that is what's going on right now. And some of these answers law enforcement may already have. We just don't have it.
You know, witnesses say they didn't hear anything from the suspect during the shooting. Now, that may obviously change as the investigation continues, but this is only coming less than 2 weeks after that horrific attack in a synagogue in Pittsburgh. More and more, we're seeing soft targets attacked. Is there anything, I mean, there was a security guard in Pittsburgh, really not able to do anything. Right. A first responder, a police officer, Sergeant Ron Heelis, you know, bravely goes into a situation where he's probably in a more or less defensive posture because the gunman can see who's coming in through that door and still decides to go in there and try and rescue individuals. Is there anything that can be done to stop these from happening? There really isn't. I
mean, so this country in Western Bar had a security guard, right, who was also shot. You had the yoga studio shooting. Right. These soft targets are very difficult. It's why you see the Department of Homeland Security going out and doing what they call active shooter training to give people sort of skills to mitigate the damage. But it doesn't deal with the underlying problem, right? We find ourselves every 2 weeks now we're here talking about this. And, you know, we've got a new Congress. We've got a new House. And the underlying problem are the guns in this country and what we're going to do about it. But that's, you can't, if you're waiting to deal with this until the gunman's coming through the door, you are not going to be successful in stopping it, or it's unlikely you're going to be successful. The place, you've got to stop it sooner in that chain of events, and it begins with who's buying guns and how are they obtaining them, and the gun issue, I think.
But law enforcement over the past few years, several years, has changed the way it attacks these sort of incidents. The sheriff talked about how the sergeant went in really just minutes after arriving on the scene. He did not wait for significant backup. Can you talk to me a little bit about how the training has changed in regards to handling an active shooter situation?
So, again, the primary, in an active shooter, if you're law enforcement, your primary sort of objective is to minimize fatalities and injuries. And so the sheriff's deputy had to make a judgment. If he heard the active shooter continuing to shoot when he arrived, he made the judgment the only way to mitigate fatalities was to just go in and not wait for backup. I mean, it's a judgment on his part. And let's be honest, I mean, an incredibly brave one. You would have understood if he thought, look, I have a better likelihood of success if I wait for backup, but more people may be dead.
Yeah. We're hearing a lot of stuff from witnesses. Some said they heard rapid fire. Some said there were flash bombs or smoke bombs or something like that. It's difficult to determine what exactly was happening inside there. Frank, can you just talk a little bit about when you're a witness in the middle of something like this? I mean, how accurate can you be?
Right. And look, it's dark. There's absolute chaos. Your adrenaline is firing, right? Because the fight or flee instinct to survive is engaged. And so it becomes, you hear witnesses say, it's a blur to me. There was a lot of firing, but they can't tell you, was it in a single pull, right? Was the handgun a semi-automatic or not? They're not going to be able to tell you that. There was smoke. They don't know, was the smoke coming from a machine inside the bar, or was it a smoke bomb brought in by the shooter? It's all a blur to them, and that's why the crime scene is very important. Law enforcement, as they're going through this bar and doing the forensics right now, will know the answers to that.
And finally, I guess, I don't know if you saw, one of our reporters spoke to a survivor of this massacre who coincidentally survived the Las Vegas shooting. And I just thought to myself,
it wasn't just him, his family. It was a group of people together.
All I could think of is, are we at a point now in this country where the chances of being involved in one of these mass shooting events is the probability of that is greater than even like a plane crash or something that, rarely happens in a lifetime of an individual, that we're at a point in this country where we're going to be talking to people who've survived multiple incidents like this.
Well, and presumably it's the connection there, right, is the country music
That's what Anne-Marie was saying, yeah.
But that's right. I mean, I do think that there is an increased likelihood of this, and I always worry in the immediate aftermath of a mass shooting, that somebody else is going to think, wow, this is my way, right? I'm going to have my 15 minutes of fame and grab a gun. And so, the synagogue was 2 weeks ago. We're in that same period now again after the country bar shooting.
Yeah.
Fran Townsend, always great to have your insight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.